Hey there, it's Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss Campbell fighting, dodo birds, leaky black. Cal Boone is here with me. Matt Norlander might join us eventually. It's a mystery. We'll see. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do to the like button. Shouts to Brandon Davies. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel. Please also do that while you're here. Let's get into it. Final score, Florida 65, Houston 63. The Gators are national champions. They accomplished this on Monday despite getting 0 points in the first half from their star, Walter Clayton. They accomplished this despite trailing by 12 points with 15:26 remaining. They accomplished this by suffocating Houston late with a defense that held the Cougars to 0 field goals in the final 2:28 of the game. Florida's offense gets most of the attention, certainly throughout this NCAA tournament, but Florida's defense won this national championship game. Cal Boone, thanks for staying up with me. Can you give me your thoughts on Florida's victory over Houston and the Gators becoming national champs for the third time in school history?
Yeah, good evening, GP. Glad to see you. And what a championship this was for Florida. The third largest comeback in NCAA tournament championship game history for the Gators. They were down by 12 points in the second half versus Houston, come back and win this game. And I thought it was a fitting finish, right? For Florida, the way that they advanced in this tournament consistently was by putting themselves, painting themselves into corners consistently late in games and finding ways to win. You go back to the second round. They beat UConn after trailing by 6 with under 9 minutes to play. They beat Texas Tech in the Elite Eight after trailing by 10 with under 5:30 to play. They were down 9 points to number 1 overall seed Auburn with 18:30 to play in the second half. And then down by 12 with under 16:30 to play in the second half versus Houston. They won all of those games. It was a worthy national championship for the Gators, and the way they did that, closing that out against a Houston team that, I honestly thought if any team could build a big lead and sustain it, it would be this Houston team. They just kind of crumbled late, and I think that you have to credit Florida's defense, the way that they closed this game. That it was a stunning finish. Florida wins at 65-63.
It was so weird in the sense that Florida flipped the game on Houston more or less the same way Houston flipped the game on Duke just 2 nights earlier, because there were points in both of these games, and honestly points in all 3 games at this Final Four, which is why this was the 22nd Final Four for me to attend in person. And this might have been the best in terms of quality of games. You get 3 every Final Four. How good can the 3 be collectively? I don't know that I've been to one where the 3 games were this good, this compelling, this dramatic, this awesome. I know this one, the national championship game, wasn't the prettiest. Again, final score 65-63. Nobody could hit a shot to open the game. It wasn't the prettiest, but it was obviously compelling. And I'm with you, and I said this earlier in the day, there was no scenario where somebody could win this national championship and we'd be like, yeah, I don't know about them. There were 4 great teams here, 4 elite teams here, and by the time we got to Monday night, as I said on the pregame show on CBS Sports Network, it doesn't matter who wins it. They will go down as one of the statistically greatest college basketball teams, college basketball national champions in modern history. And Florida is that. And I would have said that no matter how they did it, but doing it this way was just super impressive. They obviously weren't dead, but I can just tell you the truth. The way we at CBS Sports Network consume this game, we have to be on set immediately after the game. So we do not go inside the Alamo Dome. We watch it in a green room inside the convention center, and then we go out to our other green room closer to our set. We're all together. We're all watching it together for the most part. And there was a moment, just like there was a moment Saturday night, where we said, all right, we're done here. Looks like we're done here. Because when you're down 12 points to Houston, that's like being down 20 points to somebody else because of how great they are defensively and how slow they want to play and how slow they're going to typically make you play. So it felt like that 12-point deficit was down 20. So you're down what feels like 20, and Walter Clayton Jr. is giving you nothing. It felt like we might be done here. And then they just, same way Houston did with Duke the other night, hung around. And then it gets close, and now it's in striking distance, and now Houston can't, I was going to say score, but forget that. Maybe that's setting the bar too high. Can't get a shot. Final 4 possessions for the Houston Cougars. Turnover. And I don't know if I don't know if you've heard this anywhere else yet, but I went and looked it up. In the first 38 minutes and 39 seconds of that basketball game, Houston only turned it over 5 times. 38 minutes and 39 seconds. 5 turnovers. That's it. In the final 121, 4 more. They nearly matched their turnovers for the first 38 minutes in the final 121. It's not all Houston being lost on offense or confused or offense or out of sorts on offense. A lot of it was Florida's defense. The closeout at the end where Sharp couldn't even get the shot off. Just excellent stuff. But I did think it was interesting that the way we will remember Florida's run will be Walter Clayton and points and offense. The way Florida becomes a national champion for the 3rd time, and for the first time under Todd Golden, who's now a national champion at the age of 39, youngest person to do that since Jim Valvano. The way all of that happened on this Monday night, that was defense.
Yeah, I know. I think that's a great point. The irony of Florida winning with defense for a team that was, one of the most fun and explosive offenses in college basketball this season. A very ironic way and a fitting way for Florida to go out. And Sampson, after the game, Kelvin Sampson, Houston's head coach, basically, talked a little bit about the final 4 possessions, 4 turnovers, 4 final possessions, and the final 81 seconds, and said, like, look, it's incomprehensible was the word he used, that Houston could not get a shot off, specifically in the last 2 possessions. And the way that game ended with Emmanuel Sharp going up for, a potential game-winning 3, and Clayton just closed out and suffocated him. He had no room to get a shot off, and he knew he throws a shot off, it's getting blocked likely. So he throws the ball down, and he knows he has the wherewithal to know that, if he goes and gets the ball, it's a travel. The game is over. It's a mad dash to get the ball, and the game ends that way. It's truly stunning. And, just to kind of highlight, as you mentioned, just the unlikelihood of Houston blowing this lead with 15:48 remaining in the second half. Houston led 42-30 going into a timeout. ESPN's win probability had Houston with a 93.9% chance to win this game. So a fitting way for the Final Four to end, because we had several comebacks on Saturday. Florida digs out of a 12-point second half deficit and wins this one in a true stunning, thrilling fashion.
Yeah, like if you're one of those people who really likes to preach, never give up, the game's never over, well, this was the Final Four for you, because all 3 winners trailed in the second half of all 3 games that were played here in the Alamo Dome. Walter Clayton Jr. was named the most outstanding player of the Final Four. No surprise there. He was terrific, broadly speaking, but buddy, he had a rough one in this one. 0 points in the first half, didn't score at all until he made 2 free throws with 14:57 left in the game. There was an 18-minute stretch within the game, like 18 basketball minutes, where he got 1 shot off in 18 basketball minutes. And so on set tonight, like Brent Stover, our host, at one point said, like, if I would have told you Houston would lose this game despite something, what would you have thought? I said, Stove, there's like a million of those. If you would have told me Walter Clayton Jr. scores 0 points in the first half, I would have said Houston's your national champion. Mm-hmm. If you would have told me that Houston would be up 12 points with roughly 15 to play, I would have said Houston's your national champion. Had you told me before the game, GP, Houston's going to take 16 more field goal attempts than Florida in the game. I said Houston's your national champion, but all of that is a credit to Florida. Obviously, they can win games being great offensively. I bet you Todd Golden loves that they won this game this way. You know what people said? You can't get in a Houston game with Houston. You get in a Houston game with Houston, you're going to have problems. You get into a Houston game with Houston, that ain't the way to win a national championship. I don't think they wanted to get into a Houston game with Houston, but they got into one. And then down the stretch, at least it's not just the last 2 minutes, but certainly in the last 2+ minutes, they out Houston in a Houston type basketball game. And those are a bunch of combo words that I didn't expect to put together, but I think you get the point.
Yes, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. It makes no sense, but it makes a ton of sense. Absolutely. Just the way that Florida was able to keep hanging in this game. Just 2 days after, by the way, Houston was dead to rights versus Duke. They end up scoring 9. They go on a 9-0 run in the final 33 seconds of the second half of that game, end up beating Duke. And truly one of the most stunning comebacks ever. And, you know, Duke was at one point up 14, I believe it was 12 points, could have been 14 points in the second half of the game. Duke looked like, you know, they were advancing. Now in this game, Houston's up big. Florida just continues to fight. They had some really good defensive sequences down the stretch. And, you know, I think it was even funnier that Clayton, not only 0 points in the first half on 0-4 shooting, Florida had a huge run in the second half when Clayton finally went to the bench. And, you know, I think that was a credit to, and probably some evidence to how Houston's game plan was defensively. You know, they were blitzing ball screens. They were taking the ball out of Clayton's hands and saying, hey, look, if you're going to win this game, Florida, you have to have someone else step up. And Will Richard was big in this game. I thought Alex Condon had some good moments and some terrible moments kind of mixed in. But, you know, they just got just enough, and they were able to match Houston's physicality to get over the edge and just to hang tight till the very end with some huge defensive stops and an interesting battle down to the end that, you know, it was a funny stat here that I'll throw out from the CBS Sports research team. Florida's largest lead in this game, GP, is just 2 points. Yeah. This is the first title game decided by 2 or fewer points since Butler Duke in 2010. Florida's largest lead was 2 points, and according to Jared Burson, who you know,
of course, he invented research.
That's right. Second team ever to win a title without ever holding a 2-possession lead. First team to do that, Loyola Chicago in 1963. Just incredible.
Absolutely incredible. And you mentioned Will Richard, like in a game where nobody could make a shot, he was the dude that started making shots. He ended up 4 of 7 from 3. Florida only made 6 threes in the whole game, and he had 4 of them. And if you're wondering how they were able to win despite shooting that poorly, in part because Houston was just as bad. 6 of 25 from 3. The Cougars end up shooting just 24% from beyond the arc. And that's especially troubling if you're Kelvin Sampson, because this is not who you are. Mm-hmm. Your basketball team was known for its defense, but the offense was still top 10 in adjusted offensive efficiency, according to KenPom. And this was a team that is quite literally one of the best 3-point shooting teams in America.
The best.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Now it's number 3. Yes. Yeah. Coming into this game, number 1.
Coming into the game, number 1. Now it's down to 39.4% on the season. And I guess since the season's over, it's just going to stay there forever. But yes, they were the best in the country. They're still top 3 after a horrific performance. But they really did. Like, they picked and I hate it when people say that. So let me put that back in my mouth. And I hate it when people say that because that's going to get clipped and be bad. What I'm trying to say is, they didn't pick the bad night to have a bad shooting night. They didn't pick it. Florida made them do that, but it was the worst possible time to throw up a 6 of 25 from 3, particularly when you have spent this entire season being one of the greatest, if not the greatest, 3-point shooting teams in the country, at least according to percentage.
Yeah. Yeah, and even the way in which this game ended up finishing, right? Like Houston all season has done such a good job crashing the offensive glass. They're really, really good at generating second chance points, and they really, that was not the difference in this game where I thought it would be. Houston had 10 second chance points in this game. Florida actually had 11. And Houston had 15 offensive rebounds to Florida's 8, but you know, Houston just had so many missed opportunities. And even after the game, Kelvin Sampson kind of alluded to this. He was asked a question about, like this was the lowest number of assists in a game since I believe 2020. And he said, like, look, he kind of like went on a Torian Prince rant where he's like, hey, look, here's how assists work. Like, we had a lot of shots. We had a lot of opportunities down in the paint to score off passes that would have normally been makes for us, but we did not convert at the level that we needed to. And it was a bad night to have a bad night. To your point, like they had several chances in this game where if they make a bucket here, if they miss a layup and convert at the rim here, like this could be a totally different game. But that is not how it went. You have to credit Florida for the way that they pushed Houston in this game.
I thought Kelvin was really good post game, really good.
He's been good all week.
Yeah, and first off, he just is good. He's just an interesting man to talk to. I enjoy every conversation I've ever had with him, and just for him to frame it properly in his own head, because I think it's so easy. Certainly, this is what fans do. I've seen other coaches do it as well. It's so easy to just, you either win or you lose, and there's no nuance in it. You either passed or you failed, and there's nothing in the middle. And rather than just say we lost a national championship that was within our grasp and we let it slip away, or either they took it from us, one of the two, probably a little bit of both. But rather than just to focus on that, he was able to, and I think this is the right way to look at it, just sort of point out that there was a 40-minute basketball game. Florida took 53 shots. Houston took 69 shots. There was a lot of stuff in this game that happened, and they made one more play than we did. Mm-hmm. They finished with 2 more points than we had. I mean, it was, and I said this pregame, I was talking to, I guess, Wally Zerbiak just before tip-off, and he was really excited. Like, man, I can't wait. We were pumped to watch this game because we had 2 elite college basketball teams. And sometimes you go into a high-stakes game like this. It could be a national championship game in basketball. It could be a Game 7 of the World Series or NBA Finals. It could be a Super Bowl. I guess it could be anything. And you have 2 teams that are both within 1 win of a championship, but one is clearly better than the other. And so you start talking about how could this other team beat this other team? And it's like, well, they're going to need to this and that, and probably try to slow down something, but you have to come up with little ways to figure this out. And sort of where I was at before this game is Houston doesn't need to get lucky or play out of its mind or any of that stuff to beat Florida. Mm-hmm. It could just show up and beat Florida. Similarly, Florida doesn't have to get lucky or shoot well or whatever to beat Houston. They're good enough to just beat Houston. I didn't think anybody needed to play their A game to beat the other team. These were 2 basically evenly matched teams. I know Florida opened as a 1.5-point favorite and might have closed there. I don't know. But the last place I saw the number was a pick 'em. Yeah. At some point about an hour before tip-off, it was at a pick. I think I then saw it move to maybe Florida back to 1. But this was always going to be a coin flip situation that could theoretically come down to 1 shot or 1 stop. And that is quite literally what it came down to. With 10 seconds left in the game, it was a 2-point game, and the team down 2 had the ball with a chance to win. By definition, in that moment, it can go either way, and it went Florida's way because Florida made the big play at the end. But I like the way that Kelvin was able to just sort of make sense of that. Mm-hmm. We didn't play our best game. Oh, I'm going to be sick about this. It stings. But in a 40-minute basketball game where a million things happen, it really just came down to one thing here or there. You can pick the one thing here or there, make it the last thing that happened or the first thing that happened. But it really just came down to one thing in a competition where a bunch of things happen. I like the way that makes sense to me in my head. Before we move on and talk about the coaches in a little more detail, I do want to take a quick break real quick. We got to make sure everybody can get paid around here. So let's get a word from our partners and we'll be right back.
She knows, and I know she knows.
So we talk about Kelvin Sampson, and even though I think he was able to properly frame it afterward, I also know that he's going to wake up tomorrow and be sick. And this was one. Steve Lapis is on set with us, former college coach, terrific career. And man, you ever get to talking to him and he could tell you there's these games, man, and they just stick with you forever. You carry them around forever, and you wonder how your life would be different if it went another direction. Like, would it have allowed you to keep a job a year longer than you kept it? Would have allowed you to get another job that you never actually got? Obviously, Kelvin, like, he's not in that conversation. Kelvin Sampson will be the coach at Houston until he doesn't want to be the coach at Houston. But he was a shot away or a stop away from a national championship. And there was that clip from the locker room, I guess on Saturday night. And I know he was sort of saying it tongue in cheek, but there's some truth in there too. He said, I love you guys. I love you a lot more if we can win a national championship. But I do love you guys. And he said it again tonight. Like, he loves his team. This team will stay with him forever. And he is going to be in the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame someday, regardless of what happened tonight. And regardless of if he were to retire tonight, which nobody expects to happen. I'm not even trying to put that out there. I'm just saying his career could end at any point, and he's a Naismith Memorial Hall of Famer in my mind. And if your mind's different, we could argue about it. And I wouldn't ever move over to your side. This is a Hall of Fame basketball coach.
Agreed.
But the truth is, there's a difference between being a Hall of Fame basketball coach who went to 3 Final Fours and never won a title, and a college basketball coach who's in a Hall of Fame with a national championship, particularly at a national championship at a program that when he took it over, it was as in bad a shape as any historically prominent program could be in. Like, how different is Scott Drew's career if he never gets the championship at Baylor? Like, if he's just done amazing things at Baylor, Final Four, all that stuff, but not the title. It's different. We talk about it different. For the rest of Scott Drew's life, every time he is introduced to speak somewhere, it will be national championship coach Scott Drew. And deep down somewhere, Kelvin knows it was right there.
Yep.
It was right there. And honestly, I had this thought with 2 minutes to go. It's tie game, 2 minutes to go. And I looked at Adam Zucker. We were all sitting together, and I said, because they were showing ISOs, solo shots of Todd and then a solo shot of Kelvin. And I was like, there's 2 minutes to go. If we could start this game from this moment, and let's just say, hey, let's do best of 7 from this moment. And we might get to a game 7. Maybe Florida wins the first one, but then Houston comes back and win the second one. And then Houston wins the third. It could have gone any direction. I often think about this with the North Carolina Gonzaga championship game. That when there's a couple minutes left, it can go either direction. And in that moment, somebody's life is about to change for the good in a dramatic way, and somebody's life is about to be a what if forever. Mm-hmm. And now both these men are going to have to live with that. Obviously, for Todd, it's going to be incredibly enjoyable. Kelvin is secure enough and all of that stuff where this isn't going to eat him up every day. But he'll think about this night for the rest of his life. And if there's anything he or anybody else could have done differently to create a different result.
Yeah. And certainly I think that's a great point. I also think it's definitely not a black and white, like, hey, he never won a championship. So he's,
right.
And I think Kelvin is particularly good at talking about, kind of the gray area where there's thin lines between narratives, right? Like Cooper Flagg and Duke, for example, one of the greatest college basketball teams ever. They go to the Final Four. They don't win a national championship. And people talk about Cooper Flagg and, oh, is he clutch? Is he not clutch? Well, the statistics this season suggest that he was one of the most clutch players in college basketball, but in the Final Four, he was not able to come up clutch. And so, like, I think talking about the gray area of this it's tricky, right? Like Kelvin Sampson, one of the greatest college basketball coaches ever. He will be a Hall of Famer. And yet that is just a thing that is probably going to follow him. He's been to 3 Final Fours now. He's not converted to win a national championship. And, maybe he does do that, but this feels like maybe his best chance to have done it. I would say though, Houston has a top 5 recruiting class coming. Like, I have Houston probably preseason number 1. I don't know where you have them. It's just, it's a thing that could have changed Houston in such a significant way. And on top of that, too, is that Kelvin Sampson, his son, is the head coach in waiting. And what would that have done, not only for Kelvin, but also for Kellen, for the future of building this program? Like, I think the program's in great shape. Obviously, there's no questions about that. But yeah, certainly, like, just 1 or 2 plays changing potentially the entire career of Kelvin, of Kellen. Like, there's a lot of tension in the building in San Antonio as that game is ending, I'm sure. And part of that is just like history is literally being written and changed right in front of your eyes. It's crazy.
I understand that Kelvin Sampson is 0-3 now in winning national championships after getting to the Final Four, right? I understand that. And that is one way to frame it. The other way I would frame it, though, is like he got Houston to the Final Four twice.
Yeah.
Once when it was in the American Athletic Conference. And then they moved it out of the American Athletic Conference, and they started having better records against the Big 12 than they had against the American Athletic Conference. Like, I don't look at Kelvin Sampson and go, I wonder why this guy can't win a national title. I look at this guy and go, how in the world has he built this into this? This is insane that Houston basketball has become the most consistent program in the sport, 6 straight Sweet 16s. And yes, you're right. Like, whether it's 1 or 2 or wherever, they're going to be right up there again, really high to start next season. And if you told me right now Kelvin Sampson was back on the stage next year, there's absolutely nothing crazy about that. It's hard to do because it's a single elimination tournament with a bunch of great teams. It's hard to do, but he'll have a team capable of doing it. And the reason he'll have a team capable of doing it is because he's the one running the Houston basketball program. They'll be good enough to get back in this position again. I'm not ready to say this is the last time Kelvin Sampson ever actually has a true shot to win a national title, but undeniably, when you're up 12 with about 15 to go in the national title game, that's probably about as good as it ever gets. And particularly, let's even get more specific. You're up 12, 15 minutes to go with the number 1 defense in America.
Yeah.
Just like I said the other night with John Shire, you're up, I guess that one was 14 with about 8 to play. You've got the best player in the country and the team that's favored to win the national championship. You should close that out. And if you don't, you're going to feel sick about it. Similarly with Houston, you got a 12-point lead, about 15 to go, and you've got the best defense in America, and the other team's star is not really doing anything. You got to close that out. And if you don't, it's going to sting for a while and maybe forever. Let's flip it to Todd Golden. 39 years old. He's a national champion. Like I said earlier, youngest since Jim Valvano. We don't have to get into it because this ain't the night to do it. But I bet you this has been a complicated year for him. Just how could it not have been? He faced a Title IX investigation and it found no evidence of wrongdoing. Let's always point that out. But just ask anybody who covers the sport. When you hear a SEC coach is facing a Title IX investigation, you can, it's not good. Like, would you have bet a paycheck that you were certain Todd Golden would still be the coach of Florida by the end of the season? I mean, we were in a moment where everything was on the table. You saw him talking to Tracy after the game, and he said, I'm just so fortunate to coach these guys. And I know what he meant, but like quite literally, on some level fortunate to be in this position, given where he was, in the year 2024, and yet to end it cutting nets in San Antonio, particularly when you didn't have a preseason top 5 team, top 10 team. Duke was supposed to be great. Houston was supposed to be great. Florida was supposed to be good, and we'll see. And I give him all the credit in the world. He has gotten into the transfer portal, and I think probably recognized the value of the transfer portal over high school recruiting earlier than most, or at least earlier than many. He emphasized it. He recruited from it. He prioritized it. And in what is, again, I don't want to speak for anybody, but I'm just imagining, has been a really, really tough year for him and his family, I assume. He ends the college basketball season as the champion, holding a net, holding a trophy. And just like Houston, yeah, they got some backcourt issues to solve in the transfer portal, but is there any doubt they're going to solve them? I mean, you think Todd Golden's going to be hurting for NIL coming off a national championship at the age of 39?
No.
They got enough of those front court guys coming back. Now you get in the transfer portal, add some quality guards, and just like I said about Kelvin, if you told me Florida was back in this position next year, trying to go back to back, just like Billy Donovan did it once upon a time, that's not crazy. I don't know that I'm predicting it, but I wouldn't call you stupid if you did.
Yeah, no. And, I think the way in which Golden and his staff particularly built this roster is probably not something we will see again in the future and may never see again in the NIL era. This was a Florida team that had 0 top 100 players on it. They basically built around guys who were from the portal. Walter Clayton Jr. from Iona, Will Richard. I mean, they got some of their stars out of the portal. They've got some guys who they've built and developed. And, I think it's been pretty clear for several months, like the vision of this Florida team was always there. And Golden has, there's been multiple articles about it at CBSSports.com about like leaning into analytics with his coaching staff. Earlier this season, he did an interview with Adam Finkelstein, of course, our buddy at 247 Sports, and talked about like, hey, like I envision building this team, this scheme around how Golden State ran the prime Warriors, where everyone can pass, dribble, and shoot. It's like prime time. They're super fun to watch. Everyone is very skilled. And that was extremely evident during the postseason. They won the SEC tournament. They ran through the NCAA tournament, and they had guys who could pass, dribble, and shoot. And, they had some guys, bigs particularly, who struggled during the NCAA tournament. I thought Alex Condon would be a little better than he was, but Thomas Hout stood up in a big way. They had Chinyelu had some big moments in the NCAA tournament. And, the way that they built this roster just made a ton of sense. And Tommy Lloyd, after Arizona lost to Duke in the NCAA tournament, talked about Duke and like the roster that was built around Cooper Flagg, like basically saying that the pieces fit. And I think that's true too of Florida. Like the pieces fit around what they built with Walter Clayton Jr. And I wasn't sure that they could survive a 0-point first half from Walter Clayton Jr. The pieces fit around Clayton just enough that, they got some big contributions from him in the second half. He finishes with 11 points. Will Richard steps up, and Richard fittingly was the guy who kind of kicked this off for Golden as, the first commitment for him at that school. And it's the culmination of a vision for Golden that was clearly years in the making at Florida.
I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but for a while in college basketball, it felt like too many programs were just collecting talent or players with little regard for how they fit together. It's like, we'll just get everybody here, then we'll try to figure out how it fits. And if these pieces don't fit, maybe they'll fit the next season, or they'll just get in the transfer portal or whatever. And I'm really talking more pre-transfer portal, where you just like collecting high school players, the best ones you could get. Then the specifics of it might really be broken down to like, yeah, we'll get some bigs, and we'll get some guards, and then we'll get some wings, and then we'll see how it fits. My point is this: Todd is a smart guy, and he seemed to have a good idea of not just that he wanted a talented team, but very specific. What am I looking for exactly? What do I want here and here and here? Right now, you know who's doing the same thing? Pat Kelsey at Louisville. They picked up 3 of the top 15 guys out of the transfer portal. They're all very different players. You know what they have in common? They all shoot above 41% from three. Like that, I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think Pat Kelsey went out and added 3 players who all shoot above 41% from three. And that's just like, oh, wow, that's a nice little coincidence. No, that's intentional. He knows what he's looking for to fit what he wants to do. And I think Todd clearly did that with his program. And very early into his career at Florida and still very early into his head coaching career, broadly speaking, he's at the top of the mountain, man.
Yep.
There are Hall of Famers who never get here. Hall of Famers who never do what he has done at the age of 39. Just an incredible accomplishment and, just an incredible accomplishment. The last thing I want to say before we get out of here, because I don't think we need to keep anybody up past 2 a.m. in New York City. Earlier today on Inside College Basketball, I was riding a mechanical bull.
I saw this, yes.
That was spinning around nonstop. And I was also having to shoot basketballs, catch passes and shoot basketballs. One hand holding a mechanical bull, one hand catching basketballs and shooting at a goal while spinning around and also trying to talk on live television while you also have a producer in your ear. It's a lot going on. Typically, you see people on TV talking, the most they have to deal with is a producer in their ear. This was, I got a crown, I'm on a mechanical bull, I'm spinning around, and I'm shooting basketballs. Like, it was a high wire act. In the process of answering a question from Brent Stover while doing all of these things, I said something along the lines of, no matter who wins this game tonight. I know what the question Stove asked me was. He said, what will you think about this national championship, this national champion after the game is done? Mm-hmm. And on some level, it was like, well, it depends on who it is. But where I really settled was, it doesn't matter who wins the game. This is going to be one of the greatest national champions we've had in a long time. Now, I want to be clear. If I were sitting on a studio, not spinning around on a mechanical bull and not shooting basketballs and not becoming dizzy, I would have hoped that I would have said it a little better. If I were writing what I tried to say, I would write it differently. But still, what I said is that whoever wins this national championship game is going to be one of, not the greatest college basketball national champion we've had in a long time, but one of. And I don't know if you're familiar with the phrase one of. I can tell you people on Twitter, they're not all familiar with the phrase one of. But what I meant by one of is like, this will be one of the greatest we've seen. There could be other greatest we've seen, but this will be one of them. Anyway, that got clipped, put on Twitter, and you can imagine the reaction from some UConn fans. Absolutely. What are you talking about? This will be one of the greatest college basketball teams, national champions in a long time. Did you forget about UConn last season? No, UConn is also one of the greatest national champions we have seen in a long time. But you ready for this? And I'm not trying to pick this fight. I'm just quoting something. I'm not even telling you I believe it's true. I'm just quoting numbers. Last year, UConn, that awesome UConn team that went 37-3 and just ran through the NCAA tournament, it finished with a net rating at KenPom of plus 36.43. And that was amazing. Plus 36.43. Florida just finished its season. It's a national champion. Not as good of a record, 36-4 instead of 37-3, but it's 36-4 after playing in the toughest league in the history of college basketball. And this is more to my point. Their net rating, it finishes at plus 36.46. Better than UConn's last season. In fact, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
At KenPom, net ratings, Duke, Houston, and Florida all finished with a higher net rating than UConn did last season. No, I'm not telling you that means any of those teams or even the national champion Florida would beat last season's UConn team or is better than last season's UConn team. I'm just saying at KenPom, what that algorithm tells you is that Florida did have, I don't even want to put those words out into the universe. I'm just saying Florida ended its season with a higher net rating at KenPom than UConn ended last season with a net rating at Ken Palm. Those are just facts. I'll let you guys argue. I'll let you guys argue about them if you want to. Kyle Boone, thank you for staying up. Honestly, thank you for everything this whole season, man. This is the last one we're gonna do until we all of us here in San Antonio get back home and settle in and unpack our suitcases. And I'm gonna actually burn mine. Just as it's like symbolism. I just want to burn my suitcase. Also, like the zipper's kind of broke and I need a new one anyway. But I'd like the symbolism of like burning a suitcase. There is no better feeling, or at least among the good feelings of somebody who is lucky enough to do this for a living. It's awesome. Like I genuinely wake up every day and go, man, this is crazy that this is my life. All right. But like, it's a lot of nights on the road. And to know, like, after tonight, I don't have to get on a plane again for work for a while. Yep. Is like a pretty awesome feeling. And throughout the season, there are moments, man, where you don't know. I do always know I'm going to get through it, but it doesn't always feel that way. And yet we do it. We do it every year. And what I'm trying to say is we couldn't do it without you helping out, without David Cobb helping out. Without Nada being willing to work crazy hours all the time, Eric K, Debo, like we have a strong support system here and a loyal audience. And we built this thing into something that I don't know that we thought it would become. I don't know that I thought much about it. I just sort of said, yeah, let's put a microphone. Let's see what happens. But it's just been super cool to be able to spend this entire season, these ridiculous late hours, with you, with David, with Norlander, with Nada, but also like with the fans who are here right now and who are here consistently, and most of whom I know will wake up tomorrow and get this. They're not, people got to work tomorrow and they don't all get the same hours as us. But this is just a long-winded, rambling way of me saying thank you to you and thank you to everybody else, because this is a lot of fun, man. This is a lot of fun to get to do this, and I don't take it for granted. And it's another awesome season that ended with just about as good of a Final Four as you can get.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the best season, but GP, I would say it's one of the best seasons that the Ion college basketball season has had. One of the best.
Oh, I got you.
Certainly.
There's going to be somebody on Twitter who's going to want to argue with you about that. But you know what? You know what I'm learning to do? You can ignore it if you want to. Seriously, thank you guys, everybody, for being here so late at night. Thank you to everybody who is getting to this the next day. In all seriousness, the plan, I believe, is for me and Norlander to travel home tomorrow. I imagine he'll get home before I do. And then like catch our breath on Wednesday. And then I think we're going to jump back on this thing on Thursday. And that's when we'll discuss the preseason top 25 and 1. I imagine there'll be some big transfer portal decisions getting made day after day after day. That's the thing. The season is now over, but like the top 25 and 1 will publish tomorrow. And like I told our boss, Marcus Nelson, I think I will update it Wednesday and need to update it again Thursday, and need to update it again Friday, and need to update it again Saturday, and need to update it again Sunday. We will have updates perhaps every day for the foreseeable future. The transfer portal doesn't even close till April 22nd.
Yes.
And it's sort of like, I was talking to Adi Joseph about this last night. Like you just get version 1.0 out there just to get you a place so you can go to version 2.0 and 3. But 1.0 will be irrelevant very quickly. I don't care who your favorite team is. Just know that by the time we get to November, it won't look anything like it looks right now. It might look better. It might look worse, but it won't look the same. Nobody's favorite team is currently constructed. There's no teams. No team is currently constructed as it will be in November. It's a fascinating time to be a college basketball fan. I don't know that every aspect of it is great, but it'll keep the offseason interesting, at least for a little while. So again, KB, thank you for being here. Let's get out of here. Shouts to Devin Downey, Chester, South Carolina, Terry Teagle, he's a legend, Huck and Larnell. Thank you guys once again for watching and listening to the Ion College Basketball podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe. Anywhere you can subscribe to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. There's more of us than there are of them. That needs to be reflected in the comments. So you guys do that. I'm going to travel back home, and the plan is to talk to you again on Thursday. Till then, take care. Hey there! I'm Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports App College Basketball Podcast. We sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. Calhoun is here with me. David Cobb is here with me. Look at there. Chip Patterson's here with me.
We're bringing back an old buddy from the other side of the planet. The one, the only, Sam Vecini is right here.
A stink bug literally just flew into my shot. Was that on? A stink bug is literally on my desk right now. What is going on?
Do you know why we use the term nut cutting time?
Side me. Don't get your hands off of me. HR!
It really has. Doesn't mean that Houston can't be beat. It can. But if you're going to beat Houston, you're going to lose some vital organs along the way. And most of the time, you're just not going to do it.
Gary, I know where you're going with this. You were ready to lead a riot outside the NCAA headquarters because of the miscarriage of justice that would have been Louisville playing a quote home game against Auburn in the second round.
He was incredible. And
hey, Rob Doster.
You're going to fly in the wrong direction.
I do it all the time. I do this all the time.
This is so stupid.
I fly the wrong way all the time.
How many hours are you adding to your trip?
I don't care.
You don't care? Delta for life.
Delta for
Insane.
life.
Insane decision by you.
I thought you were going to let me go.
Nice. They're dancing.
This is like Chad Baker-Mazar, not thick.
Not thick.
Not thick. I never even really thought about it, but now that I'm thinking about it for the first time, not thick.
what is it with me and the animals?
If you're not, no, I don't know what nut cutting time means exactly, except I know what it means. One of my that's like one of my. Look who it is.
Yeah.
Look who
It's Parrish.
Yeah. It's a live
What's
show.
up with you? How are you?
You've done this before.
Yeah, I did it on his show once before, so he's getting me back there. It's live podcasting. It's okay.
The other day he was like, GP, I heard every word you said this morning. I said, bro, I didn't even get on the phone. He said, no, I listened to you do a whole show this morning. You can hear everything in between the lines. So that's what so like last night as we're doing the show at 2 a.m, I'm aware, like the people on both sides of me can hear. I'm 100% sure I woke everybody up. It was like that night where Drake released that one track and then Kendrick came right back on the top of it 15 minutes later with Meet the Grams. That's what I felt like happened to me. Like I was like, this is my moment.
You're the Drake of CBS. All right, you said it.
And he was in a position to win the whole thing. And, he left you hanging. He left you hanging.
Vanta left me hanging.
Should he consider taking part of his NIL and getting a BBL? NIL to a BBL. What do you think? NIL gets you a BBL. Chad Baker-Mazar comes back next year with an extra year of eligibility, and he's thick.
So he does the interview right here, and I'm like typing, and I'm right here, and I hear Norlander, pick against us again. You better be picking against. He's screaming it at me, to the point where I thought it was going to be picked up on the broadcast there. Later, fellas. 68 crews out of here. And it was.
How many of them are there? Jesus
I
Lord.
know.
With Urban Cowboy, so I was made for this. Plus, when I was young enough to go to clubs down in Memphis, Tennessee, they had one that had a mechanical bull inside of it. You get a couple of drinks every once in a while, and then you jump on that thing and get thrown off pretty quickly. Special shouts to Denim and Diamonds. Rest in peace. It's Game 3 Thursday, 9:30, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's Duke, Arizona, inside the Joe Pesci Center. Does that surprise you? Joe Pesci and Ray Liotta, both from Newark.
Not surprised whatsoever.